Hey, what's up, guys, out there in YouTube land and TikTok and Facebook and Twitch and all that good stuff? So we're coming to you today. I told you that I've been going through some stuff. Black Beauty gave out the ghost on the preamp side. She just stopped working completely and would scatter here and there. And then whenever I turned her over on the lead slide of that, which Black Beauty, if you don't know, is a PV Classic 54x10. And the one behind me is a PV Classic 54x10 as well. That's Big Bird. And luckily I had both of them, and I was able to swap chassis from Big Bird into Black Beauty because I like Black Beauty. I like the aesthetic of Black Beauty. I also like the way that her new speakers are in it. The old Scorpions are great. Don't get me wrong. I like those old Scorpions, but they're busted in Big Bird, so I haven't been playing Big Bird as much because of the busted speakers. And I'm ordered speakers. I'm just waiting on them to get here so I can put them in Big Bird. And as you see, the chassis is right up there hiding on top of the guitar, and that's because I pulled it out of Black Beauty last night to go ahead and start the process of working on that. Now, I've ordered some stuff. I ordered a complete tube set from myguitarsupply.com. If you're not familiar with them, I would definitely give them a shout out. I've used them 2 or 3 times in the past, and they've always had what I needed. Even during the tube shortage, myguitarsupply.com always had everything that I needed to make sure that my amp was working. Now, there were a couple things that I wasn't able to get through them that I always order through somebody else, like tubedepot.com, and those were the capacitors. So whenever I started to restore Big Bird in the back of me, she had some issues. I got her used. She had previously caught on fire. She had also been through a flood previously that I came to find out once I pulled the chassis off. She had a lot of water damage and a lot of rust that was starting to come from the water damage. So I had to clean up the board quite a bit and had to have help doing that as well. And I want to give a shout out to Mr. Charlie Harris, who is an amp technician in the Tennessee area. So if you don't know, Mr. Charlie Harris is one of the best amp technicians that there is. So he kind of led me into some things, and I've always been, I guess, prejudiced, you could say, on what type of capacitors to use. So I'm not a huge fan of the Illinois capacitors that came in stock with the PVs, and I've always changed them out. And he did an excellent job whenever I ordered my stuff through Tube Depot, the capacitors through tubedepot.com. He did an excellent job of putting them into Big Bird's chassis for me and changing it out and helping me clean that, what he could clean up, and then whatever else I cleaned up. I changed the fuses before I gave it to him, and so he got a brand new fuse set on the inside of it, but he changed the capacitors out for me and did an excellent job, and I don't have any complaints. So running into some problems, there's been a couple things that have happened, since the last video I posted, which was last night, which was the live video, and that was the backing plate in the years. So this is a 91. This is the first year that they came out and redid the Classic series. It used to be a big black Classic, and these are now Classic 50s. So the 4x10s is Classic 50s in it. It used to be just the Classic series 4x10 in a black. And then Black Beauty is a 2001. So there's 10-year difference in between them both. And I was a little bit worried that the chassis wasn't going to fit based upon the year's difference in between them. And, technology changes quite a bit within a 10-year period. About every 3 years, there's a new chipset that comes out. There's a new board set that comes out. There's a new fan that comes out. And so there's lots of things that can go wrong in between the time periods there. And luckily, PV didn't change the design too much. The only things that they changed was the aesthetic of the outside of the cabinet and the aesthetic on the back of the cabinet. They did not change anything else. The chassis fit perfect. The screw holes were perfect, other than the backing plate, the backing plate. So on the 91 back here, it had 3 going across, 1 in the middle, and 1 on the left side, I believe. And on this backing plate on this one, it had the 3 going across, it had 2 and 1 in the middle. And that was really the only change. So because of the hole difference in the chassis, I can't put the 2 screws in it on the 91, but I could put them on this one if I wanted to. I could open it up and put it on that one. So those are the differences there. So now it's just a matter of waiting on my tubes and getting my tubes in for this little guy that's back here hanging on top of the amp. And then it's also going to be, I'm going to probably change those capacitors out. being a variant. So 2001 to 2011 is 10 years. They were supposed to be changed out at that marker, but I can tell that they weren't by the amount of spooge glue that PV uses. And if you don't know what that is, trust me, it is a thick layer of either brown or white glue that covers all the capacitors. And I mean thick, like covering half of the capacitors up. So I know that they've never been changed out. They've never been moved. And that's part of the problem with that amp why the preamp died as well, is because maybe the capacitors are going bad in it too, along with the tube set that's in it. So it's time for a tube change, and it's time for some capacitors to go through. And I'm going to be ordering some capacitors maybe within the next 2 weeks. So this thing's going to sit here in some of my videos. Y'all are going to see it and probably complain about it and gripe about it and yell about it. But it's just going to have to sit until I get that stuff in to where I can get it ready to be taken care of and done. Because I don't really want to pay somebody to order the part and put the parts on. You can save some money if you just order the parts yourself and then have them put on. And you say, well, how do you know how to do that? Well, each capacitor has a rating on it. And you just read the rating as it sits. And then you just go and find a matching set that you like, whether it's Illinois or F&T or Mallory or whoever. It don't matter who you're using. You could use Sprague or Orange Grove or whoever you want to use. You find the same type. If they're drum capacitors, circle drums, you buy circle drums. If they're like the only way I know how to say it is like the top of a pick here, and then they've got two little sprockets going out. If they're like that, those orange drop capacitors or Mallory circle orange drop capacitors, you replace those as they come in too. You just buy them and go and replace them, man. Solder them in, solder the old ones out, solder the new ones in. But you have to know what you're doing, because these things are full of electricity. These amps stay full of electricity. They can be charged for up to a year after they've been unplugged. So if you go around messing with this stuff and you don't know what you're doing, you can shock yourself to death. So it's very, very highly rated to keep your amp unplugged for a couple days. You know, I would say 2 to 3 days before you start to work on it. That way most of the charge is starting to leave those capacitors and move out of them before you start cutting them open and replacing them. And then second is, you know, they always tell you to have a closed circuit with your heart. So if you've got one hand on the chassis, you need to have one hand on your leg or on your hip so that it passes through and has a ground. If you're wide open and you got both hands in it, dabbling, you can shock yourself and cause your heart chamber to stop, completely stop. So there is some dangers with changing these things out and moving these things around and putting different things inside of them. I would suggest using a professional technician like I'm going to do. I'm going to get my parts and use a professional technician to have them put it in. And that way I'm saving myself. Now, there are stuff that I can do. If I can replace the fuses, that's no big deal. Just a pair of pliers, pull the fuse out, put the fuse in. And that'll save you some time too, as to see if the fuses have blown. And then you know too, if the amp turns on, the fuses aren't blown. If the fan comes on in these, the fuses aren't blown in it. So there's telltale signs on some things. If you turn it on and it's got the light but it has no power and it has something, no sound, nothing, it's either the capacitors, the tubes, or the fuses. So, and most of these fuses you can get like, 99 cents. Some of them are $1, some of them are $2. But you have to know where to order them from. Most of them will be coming from TubeDepot.com. So I'm giving a huge shout out to them, TubeDepot.com. I'm giving a huge shout out to My Guitar Supply, especially for having tubes, man. During this tube crisis, it was amazing to have those tubes and have them come to me. I've already replaced 2 sets and 2 other amps and helped one of my buddies get his Mesa fixed, and they were the only place that had those tubes that I needed. And they had them reasonable. So I use JJ's. That's my personal use inside of these. I do like groove tubes, and I do like the Mallory and Gold Lion. I like those. I like the Electro Harmonics, but they've gotten to the point, especially during the crisis, that they were so expensive. Even for gold pins, they were just so expensive that you had to find something that was reasonable to put in your amp for a short period of time. And yes, I will tell you the truth. There are some different variances in the tubes that will make the magic happen, where the breakup rate is on them, what style, how hot they're rated for. You know, that all makes a difference in how your amp sounds. Same thing with the capacitors. The capacitors that you change in, higher quality product that you put into your amp, the better quality you're going to get out of it and the longer it normally will last. Like I told you, 10 years is normally a good, between 5 and 10 years is normally when they say to change your capacitors out. The first 5 years, and then at the 10-year mark, for sure, change them out. And so we've gone way past that with this thing, and it was a barn find, really, to be honest with you. Black Beauty was a barn find, and it was from a gentleman in Montana that just wrote me on eBay and told me, hey, I said, hey, what's going on with the amp? Why are you selling it so cheap? And he said, I just need the money. And he sent it to me. He shipped it and everything. And that's unheard of. People don't ship these things because they're like 90 pounds. It costs you just as much to buy the amp as it does to ship them in some cases. So there's a lot of people who won't even ship them, who won't even touch it. And he was willing to even ship it to me just to get it out of his barn and away from him. And come to find out, it only had like maybe 60 hours of play total on it. So it was basically a brand new amp that had just sit a long time. But the saying goes, if you let something sit and you don't mess with it and you don't play with it, it's bound to have problems because everything is still aging, whether it has power connected to it or not. And so when age takes over time in electricity with stuff, it just changes it a little bit. It changes the sound, it changes the tone, it changes everything. So it's been a good minute with this, just trying to get it all taken care of. I know I rambled on for a while. I'm sorry for rambling. I just kind of want to let you know what's going on in my world. And hopefully later tonight, after I get everything settled, I'll be able to play a little bit and put some stuff out there. The Camel Toes Adventures page is up on TikTok, and I'm starting to put some of the stuff that's on YouTube over there onto the TikTok. If you guys want to give me a shout out, a like, a subscribe, a follow, I'd greatly appreciate anything you could do over there for that channel, just trying to help me out. This is really my only source of income as of right now. I'm working on some other things, trying to get some things started up with my brother, but this is the only way I'm making money right now is through the internet and through YouTube, and I'm not really making anything on YouTube, to really be honest with you. I don't have enough subscribers or followers. I am monetized as far as being grandfathered into the old monetization, but I don't have enough views and I don't have enough likes and subscribers to really make anything. And I got a check for 27 cents was the last check that I got from YouTube. So that should tell you something. Like, that's laughable, but it's really like, this is really how I'm making my money right now, is just word of mouth and doing things for people and helping them out and helping them with their guitars. And I'm trying to take my guitars to other people to get them worked on because I don't want to work on their stuff and my stuff. So I'm working on enough stuff of mine. I got this bass thing going on right now too, where I've started building this bass and I've run into some problems. I'm waiting on some supplies to come in from Stu Mac. Shout out to Stu Mac too. I definitely want to give them a shout out on this because they have been vital. Any questions I've had, anytime I've needed to ask questions, concerns, they have been right there to help me or show me a video. They'll say, hey, what's this video? This is how you do this. Or they'll say, if I don't have a video of that, I'll put a video out for you and it'll be out in the next week. And they're right on top of it. So really want to give a shout out to StuMac.com for helping me along the way and hopefully helping you all too. And I'm not sponsored by any of these people. I'm not making money on any of these people. But if you have any guitar building needs, tools, accessories, if you want to get into pickup winding, StuMac has everything that you can imagine. They have a price on stuff. They're like anybody else. There's a price to be paid for stuff, but they have it, and I definitely want to give them a shout out for it. And then I've got some friends who've helped me along the way. I've asked questions to them too. Preston Paris, definitely been one of the big things. Trey Gray, one of the big guys that has helped me out a lot. And Ed Maynard, I definitely want to give a shout out to Ed too. Ed has helped me and talked to me through stuff and helped me with stuff along the way. And I can't say thank you enough to all of those guys who have helped me out and have talked with me and helped me build stuff and helped me create stuff along the way. So thank you guys so much for everything that you all have done for me and for the channel and for just building it in general and personal. So thank you guys very much. And I hope that you continued watching this till the end. I hope you give it a like, a subscribe, and a follow. And thank you guys so much. And I'll see you in the next video.